What if the reason you keep burning out has nothing to do with how hard you're working and everything to do with who you've learned to be? In this video, I'm walking you through 7 identity patterns that could be wiring you for burnout. These are patterns that got built into your nervous system long before you ever had a career, family, or a team to lead, and by the end, you're going to know exactly what they are and where they came from and what to do if you recognize yourself in them. I've spent over 20 years working with purpose-driven professionals through stress, burnout, and exhaustion. And in that time, one thing has become clear. The problem is almost never where people think it is. See, most people that I work with have often tried the breathwork and the ice baths and the meditation and the journaling. They do it for a while, but then they stop and then they blame themselves because it didn't work. But here's what I need you to hear before we go any further. It's not your fault that these things didn't work because the underlying patterns were wired into your nervous system long before you ever even had a say in it. See, you weren't born this way. Your environment shaped your nervous system, and your nervous system shaped your identity. From the moment that we're born, we adapt to the environment and the people in it. So our early relationships, especially with like our parents or our primary caregivers, teaches us how to respond to the world. They shape every relationship that we have after that, with other people, with our partners, with colleagues, with the world itself. And these patterns don't just live inside our behaviour, they get wired in at a cellular level inside the nervous system. So when stress hits, our go-to response is our learned behaviour, not always a choice, but a habitual program. Let me give you an example. I grew up in a loving household and I was cared for to the best of the abilities of my parents, and there were some turbulent times. And sometimes that meant I needed to keep alert. I needed to look out and make sure that mum was okay and make sure that dad was okay and make sure that there was no disruption. Because when that turbulence did hit, people got stressed out and I wanted to keep the peace. So I'd learned to not rock the boat. I remember hearing mum and dad arguing once. I don't even remember what it was about now, but I could feel the intensity at home. You could cut the atmosphere like a knife. And all I wanted to do was make sure that they were okay and make them smile again so that we could all just calm down. And other times, I just wanted to go and hide under the covers in my bed. 2 responses, 2 patterns, both learned, both wired in. And both showed up decades later in moments of stress without me consciously choosing them. If this sounds familiar and you want to understand where your own patterns are hitting hardest right now, there's a free Stress Less scorecard linked in the description. It's going to take a few minutes to do and it will show you exactly where your stress is coming from at the deepest level. So check out the link below or scan the QR code. So let me walk you through the 7 specific patterns because understanding which ones are yours can change everything. These 7 patterns were popularized by holistic psychologist Dr. Nicole LaPera, and I'm combining them today with the patterns that I see repeatedly in the people that I work with alongside insights from nervous system science as well. But first, we need to recognize that when we identify with something, we become attached to it, including these patterns that I'm about to share. For example, if somebody believes they're a people pleaser, they'll keep on people pleasing. If I see myself as an overachiever, I'll keep on overachieving to maintain that title. So the identity becomes sticky, so we get attached to it. So have a look at these 7 and see which ones you might have become attached to over the years. The first one is the caretaker. This is where we gain our identity and our sense of self-worth through neglecting our own needs to care for others first. The only way we know how to receive love and feel safe at this point is to cater to others and ignore our own needs. I see this so much in parents who, when their kids grow up and leave home, are too exhausted or a bit lost to enjoy the next chapter of their life because they've spent so long putting everybody else first, they have to relearn what energizes them and what they're passionate about so they can go and enjoy life fully again on their own terms to fulfill their own needs. The second one is the overachiever. This is the most common pattern that I see with my clients. They typically feel seen, heard, and valued through success and achievement, and they use external validation as a primary way to boost their own self-esteem. They believe that one of the only ways to receive love and feel safe is through more and more achievement. Number 3 is the underachiever. This is when somebody keeps themselves small. They try to stay unseen and beneath their potential. They often have a fear of criticism, shame, or failure, and they take themselves out of the game before it's ever played. They often feel like the only way to receive love and feel safe is to stay invisible. And I see this so much in the frustration of my clients who experience this when they know they're meant for more, but they can't seem to apply themselves to get there. That gap between knowing and doing is the underachiever pattern in motion. From the outside, it looks like procrastination or lack of discipline, but underneath, it's the nervous system that's learned to stay small because it thinks it's safer than being seen. Next up is number 4, the rescuer or the protector. This is the person who's always trying to rescue the people around them, and often this is completely unconscious as a way to heal their overlooked pain. Sometimes they might also judge other people for feeling helpless or incapable. They might believe that the only way to receive love and feel safe is to be in a position of power to help other people solve their problems. Unfortunately, I see this a lot in the coaching space, where there's a lot of coaches out there, and particularly in podcasts, who aren't fully qualified but try to swoop in and help others. And it comes from a really good intention, but sometimes it can do more harm than good. So if you're looking for a coach, always make sure that they're qualified to actually support you. Number 5 is the life of the party. This is the happy, cheerful, comedic person who never shows pain, weakness, or vulnerability. The internal cost is enormous because genuine emotion never gets expressed. They often believe that the only way to receive love and to feel safe is to make everyone else around them happy. And this contributes to a deep sense of loneliness. And I see this so much in the leaders, right? Leaders who believe they have to keep the mask on because they're responsible for everyone else. Next up is number 6, the yes person. The person who drops everything and neglects their own needs in service to others. This is the people-pleasing pattern that has likely been modelled from seeing other people in their own lives self-sacrifice. They often believe that the only way to receive love and feel safe is to be both good and selfless. This is extremely common with the clients that I work with, the high responsibility people. It often leaves people feeling deeply disconnected from who they are. They are so good at people pleasing everybody else that they forget how to please themselves. And finally, number 7 is the hero worshipper. This is the person who always feels like they need someone else to follow. I see this in clients who have lost trust with themselves. They would rather put their trust into somebody else, and they often believe that the only way to receive love and feel safe is to ignore their own intuition and look to someone else as a model for how to live. So think about those and ask yourself, which of these do you recognize yourself in? Let me know in the comments below, because they're all common, and most human beings, I would say like 99% of people, experience at least one or more of these at some point in their life. Knowing the patterns is only half of the picture though. You need to understand exactly how they tip you into burnout, and that's what's coming up next. But before that, just a quick reminder, if you're seeing yourself in these patterns, then take that Stress Less scorecard in the description. It's a great place to start to help you unpack it. All right, the link's in the description below, and you can also scan the QR code if you're watching on TV. So please know, none of these identities are good or bad. They're just coping mechanisms, patterns that we've learned along the way to avoid pain and stress. When we lean into these stress responses, we feel a little bit of relief. Right? Then we return to what feels like a relaxed state, but really we're not relaxed. We're actually on alert, scanning for the next opportunity to say yes, to rescue somebody, or to overachieve. We're looking for these patterns because we need to feel safe. Living like that can be exhausting. People typically come to me having lost touch with who they are, and they've stopped having sometimes their own opinions. They're over-functioning, carrying poor boundaries, or feeling guilty and running on stress on this dysregulated nervous system until it tips them into burnout. And this is just staying in these patterns for a long time. So by now you're probably wondering, well, what can you actually do about it? Well, the first thing is to notice it and name it. So for example, if you recognize yourself as a yes person, ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I said no? What do I believe I have to do right now in this moment? Or where did I learn that this is how I need to respond? Once we can name it, then we can actually move forward from it. So the second thing you then need to do is to do the opposite. So if you say yes all the time, practice saying no. If you shrink yourself to stay invisible, speak up. If you're constantly overachieving, set a limit. If you're always the life of the party, take some space for yourself. Sometimes noticing and doing the opposite is enough. But if you try to do the opposite and you can't, that's a signal. It's a signal that you need to do the third thing, which is to create more internal safety for yourself first. When I think about my high responsibility clients who are juggling their family, important work, health, and finances, when they first come to see me, I see them putting themselves at the bottom of the list. Right? When stress then hits, they reach for a bottle of wine, or maybe if they're feeling really intentional, maybe a yoga class, maybe. But the work that we do together then really matters the most, because that's where we really address the beliefs and why we actually feel the need to carry so much in the first place. Because it's not about stopping the responsibilities that we have in life or removing all of the stress. That's just not realistic. It's about improving our relationship to it. See, we can carry stress and responsibility from a place of fear of everything falling apart if we take a break, or any one of those identities that we've shared, or we can carry the load from a place of peace, joy, and sustainability. And that's the power of creating safety first and creating safety within so that we can really be ourselves. Then we can operate from different patterns, ones that don't burn us out. So remember, what helped you in those early years from stress may have served you then, but it doesn't necessarily serve you now. Your identity and your nervous system patterns need to be relevant to who you are today and the life that you've created. Now, everything I've shared in this video is really, really helpful, but it's only going to work if you understand the other deeper rooted drivers that are driving your stress and burnout, like values misalignment and suppressed emotions. And I go into all of that in this next video, so I'll watch it next and I'll see you in there.